Being homeless doesn't mean you're out of options. I'm going to share with you 5 essential survival skills that can help you thrive in any situation, including SHTF. When you're homeless, every day can be a struggle to survive. You're constantly worried about where your next meal is coming from, how you'll stay safe, and where you'll lay your head at night. But despite all these challenges, there are people who have managed to overcome homelessness and have gotten back on their feet. And in this video, I want to share with you the essential survival skills that have helped them do just that. The first skill you need to learn, I think, is also the most essential skill that you need to learn, which is know your environment. One of the things that I always do whenever I go out and become homeless again is I like to go find an area where the homeless are congregating, because it makes it so much easier for me to sit back and observe. What I'm looking for is I'm watching the attitude, seeing, is what the culture's like, whether it's aggressive, whether it's more communal, how people are helping each other. You also get to, see who's who and what's what and kind of where things are going. You also get to see how people are making their money, where they're going for food, and a lot of other stuff. It's very important that you get to know your environment when you first become homeless. And this even applies if you're preparing for SHTF, because when you first have to bug out, you're gonna be in a city most likely. And how do you get through that city, and how do you survive with the least amount of contact, with the least amount of contention, with the path of least resistance? And a lot of that comes to getting to know your environment. One of the things I did in one city was when I was in Eugene. I just got out of jail, and I had 80 bucks in my pocket. So I sat there with the 80 bucks in my pocket, and I bought me cigarettes, I bought me weed, bought me something to eat. And I sat there at the square and watched the whole homeless population. By the end of that week, I had already figured out where to find a job, where to get food, where to get any of the resupply, anything that I needed. Plus, I also created a couple of friends along the way. And so, that is part of becoming homeless, is sometimes it's a slow process, and you've got to be willing to have the patience to sit back, to watch, to observe, and then act, instead of just acting because you're in the middle of a situation. The second thing that you're going to want to do is don't sleep where the homeless are sleeping. If they're all sleeping in one part of town, go over to a different part of town. Now, as time goes along, you may go over and congregate in where the homeless sleep, because it may seem safer. It may have, some benefits, plus you're closer to resources, and, you may not get harassed as much, stuff like that. However, when you're first starting out, you don't really know you may know your environment a little bit because you sat out and observed, but you still have to go to sleep. And so until you get to know the beast, you should always keep your distance from the beast. And in this instance, the beast would be the homeless community and homeless population in the area in which you're at. So you really want to make sure that when you go and you look for places to sleep, that you're going where there's the least amount of homeless. The truth is that every part of the city, the homeless sleep. There are pockets where a majority of them congregate, and that's what you want to stay away from. So, for example, here in Gainesville, if you go along the rail trail the whole way, and the closer you get into downtown, the thicker it gets with the homeless population. When you first start out, that's probably not going to be the first place that you're going to want to go. You might want to go into the downtown area and maybe go towards more like the northwest side of town or the southwest side of town, because that's much different than the northeast and southeast side of town, which is where a majority of the homeless hang out. Okay, so make sure that if you're going to be doing this and you want to stay safe and also have your peace of mind, because if you guys heard a few live streams ago, I was talking about how all of a sudden I went from having no traffic coming by my camp the first couple of days to there was so much traffic that people were starting to look at and start to covet my stuff. And so therefore that was an early warning sign. That's part of the main reason why you want to avoid hanging around the homeless population until you get comfortable and get used to it. And then at that point in time, you can take those risks, but you're taking those risks with knowledge versus just going into it blindly. For everybody that is newly homeless, one of the first things that they end up doing is they end up overpacking. It took me probably about 4 or 5 times coming outside being homeless before I understood how to properly pack. And now you guys get to see my videos. And in my videos, I share with you like the essential gear, the types of things. So right now you see me in a hammock. Okay, I've got an under quilt on top, underneath that to keep me warm. Got my blanket, got my sleeping bag, got things like that. You need your essentials. You need something to sleep in, something to keep you dry. You need whatever tools you need for however you're going to make your money. You don't really need a lot to start with. And then from there, you build out. You go get the community resources, especially like when you're building your first aid kit. Community resources are much better at building a first aid kit than going and spending, $50 to $100 for one. Yeah, it'll come in a nice, neat package, but you can go get all that stuff for free if you know what resources are available within your local city. That's why it's important to, sit back and observe your environment and get to know your environment so you know where to find a lot of these stuff. But when you first come out, you should mainly focus on something to sleep in and something to carry your stuff. Okay, and then build out from there. Do you want a sleeping bag, or do you want a quilt like I do? Because I'm a side sleeper. Sleeping bags aren't really that good for side sleepers, especially mummy bags. So I have a quilt. I have a pillow. I have, if I were sleeping on the ground and not doing a hammock, I would have a sleeping pad. A foam sleeping pad versus an inflatable sleeping pad. A foam sleeping pad is going to last longer. You want to make sure that you can get a good night's sleep. You maybe have your special hygiene stuff, like I use special soap. I only use Irish Spring because it's the only thing that can strip the oil off of my skin. And I produce so much oil that I need something that's gonna push that away. So in the same thing, bring that specialty stuff that you need, that you're always gonna need. Like if you've got eczema, make sure you have your shea butter. If you have certain things that you need because you've got irritable skin, make sure that you bring that stuff for hygiene. But a lot of that stuff's going to be provided out there for you. As long as you've got a sleep system and just like a change of clothes, you should be fine. Build out from there. Most people, just like when you're cooking, it is much harder to take spice out than it is to add a little bit at a time until you get the flavor just right. Think of the same thing when coming outside. Number 4 is something, it is the drum that I have been beating for 2.5 years. Make a plan, okay? Even if you didn't make a plan before you came out, take a moment, take 4 to 6 weeks and ponder, you've got nothing better to do. Figure out, do some experiments, figure out how you're going to make your money, and then create a plan that is going to allow you to create the momentum that you need so that you can generate enough money so that you can therefore, get out of your homeless situation. Whether you're an SHTF or which most preppers, you guys have a plan, but is your plan adaptable? Is it adaptable to a constantly changing environment? And I would say the same thing to you who's being homeless. I wanted to be able to be in the cities. It is much easier for me to build my channel while being in the city. But I reach a lot of contention, and I don't want to deal with the stupid stuff within the homeless community, because there's always that one jackwagon. I would prefer to be out and have a little bit of peace. So now I have to figure out how to build a channel from a distance out in the woods, traveling and doing things like that. Your channel has, or not your channel, but your plan has to be adaptable and have the ability to move in whatever directions that you need to move, as far as adaptability. But even if you didn't make a plan before you came out, the most important parts of the plan that you need to figure out is where you're going to sleep, where you're going to eat, how are you going to manage your resources, how are you going to have free time to be able to be productive, to do things that are going to make money, what things are you going to do to be productive that's going to make money. So for example, a great example is, okay, so in the city of Gainesville, where am I going to eat? Where am I going to get my water? I can go to Grace Marketplace and I can go up there with ease. I can get my shower. I can get everything I need, medical care, everything's there. So at least once or twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending upon how many showers I want or need for the week, I will go up to Grace Marketplace. I'll get access to food. I'll get access to a shower. I'll get access to all the different resources and stuff that I need, so that the other 4 or 5 days a week, I can focus on other things, such as making content, such as researching for content, such as doing my live streams, such as, building my website. And I got a lot of different things that I got to do. And when you're homeless, most of your time is spent gathering resources. So part of what makes your plan effective and efficient is that you are going to be able to create a routine, so that out of that routine you're able to carve out enough time so that you can go and do the things that you need to do to get back up on your feet. Because that's kind of where most people fail in when they go homeless, or even if they're experiencing SHTF, is that they're thinking about, how do I survive the moment, versus, okay, I now know how to survive the moment, now how do I get out of this? And so many people are so late to making their plan that there's really no viable plan, and by that point in time they don't see any options, because the longer you go without making a plan until you finally reach homelessness, the harder it is going to be. Because when you're housed, when you have the resources, when you have the environment that allows you the dedication to be able to focus on whatever it is that you need to be able to focus on, once that goes away, it becomes much harder to be able to create that routine, because your day is constantly fluid. What you plan today may not actually happen. Okay, so it's very important that you bring a plan together, and that you make sure that this plan is going to be adaptable, and that you know the areas where you can be flexible, so that if things go wrong, you still have a way to recover and move forward. Okay, guys, I want to thank you for making it this far. We got one more to go, but before we get into that, just so you know, this channel is supported by crowdfunding. That's memberships here on YouTube and on Patreon. Come on over, check us out. We even got free memberships over on Patreon with a lot of free goodies, especially for the homeless community if you're over there. But also, my tip jar and everything else is down in the description. And don't forget to share this video, and consider subscribing if you haven't. Now, number 5 is, now that you've got yourself a routine, now that you've got yourself a plan, you didn't come out with a lot of gear, you've got your hustle on and stuff like that, now you really want to step things up, okay? And this is going to be what really allows you to create the momentum that you need to be able to get off the streets and to be able to focus on what it is that you need to. So part of the reason why you guys hear me talk about using my food stamps to buy my food off of Amazon, and I buy a lot of freeze-dried stuff. What is the benefit of accumulating extra resources? Because that's what number 5 is. You want to accumulate extra resources. And the biggest benefit in accumulating the extra resources is, now I have at least a couple of weeks worth of food. As long as I go once a day and resupply on a gallon of water, I can sit anywhere with my cook set, make my meals, make sure I got something to drink, make sure the dog has something to drink, and make sure that I actually have the environment and the time to be able to sit back and focus on what it is that I'm focusing on. Because you spend so much of your time being homeless running after resources that 80% of your day is just trying to get your basics met. That's food, shelter, shower, and basic resources. Past that, the other 20% of your day, it's kind of like it's open, and you spend that time relaxing, going, man, it's been a busy day running around, just trying to get in a food line so I can get something to eat, just getting in another clothing line so that I can get me a coat, or I can get me a pair of pants or a new pair of shoes. Okay, so if you have the opportunity to accumulate extra resources that you need to be able to survive on a daily basis, for example, your food, so now I don't have to rely on going to the food line. Now that frees up a couple of 3-4 hours a day. That 3-4 hours a day, now I can redirect towards something that's going to be more productive. Okay, because that was the purpose of building my plan, is I know what I need to do to be productive. Now I need to create more time by accumulating my resources in the proper manner. Okay, so all of this is going to be a big deal when it comes to surviving homelessness, especially if you're new to being homeless, or even if you're planning for SHTF. All of this is applicable across the board. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.